Today I'm going to share the 4 biggest lessons I learned operating this rig on very steep mountain gravel roads in a 2-day storm. We got about 1.5 feet of snow. We're on a hospitality ranch here, so we have Airbnb rental vacation homes here, and we have to get our guests out and get new guests in. We have to get our cleaning crews in and out. And so this has been quite an adventure over these last 2 days. Now, when I bought this machine, I really wasn't sure if this was going to work well with these stock Kubota tracks on steep mountain roads. And I wasn't sure how this blower was going to do with, gravel roads with transitions from steep to flat and over, knolls and around tight turns and all of that. So I couldn't find any other videos on the internet of that exact type of terrain. We're here in southern Utah. So I wanted to make this video to share it with anyone else that's out there trying to find information on how a rig like this is going to work in these mountainous conditions. So let's get into it. For context, guys, this is the equipment that I'm using. This is a Kubota SVL 2584. That stands for 84 inches wide. This is high flow configured. It's your male, female, your case drain here, and then the electrical. I'll show you what that controls here in just a second. I ran those down through this hose and wire keeper. Plenty of length on everything. Not too long, not too short, just perfect. No modifications there. That's the motor for the auger. That turns this auger that pulls the snow into the 4-blade impeller. And because we're on gravel roads, of course, especially when I was trying to figure this out in the beginning, sucked a lot of gravel in. You can see it damaged the finish there. No major damage here. I think it'll work fine. You just have to be really careful not to continue to suck gravel in. You'll get some always, but try and minimize it. Underneath all this snow is the gear. That is turned by an electrical motor right there. That's where that electrical line comes in. And this turns the chute on top to direct the direction that you blow the snow out. And then this chute deflector at the top controls whether or not you want to throw it out far or sort of straight down on the side of the road. That was very useful. You can actually spin this around almost over your shoulder. And that is the control, valve control there for directing all of the hydraulic fluid. This really did not have much effect on the power of the machine at all. I was able to have what felt to me like full power to the tracks and turning and going up and down the mountain. Of course, I had the RPMs all the way up to run all of that, especially in high flow, but I didn't feel anything with this Kubota 97-2 machine as far as loss of power with that auger and impeller going full blast. It was really just the power was not an issue at all. The first of the 4 biggest takeaways was how to get the most traction out of the stock tracks on a steep, snowy road. I wasn't sure if these were going to turn into a pair of skis and I was going to go right off down the mountain on some ice into some trees and damage my machine. I really didn't know. I hadn't seen any videos of anyone on steep mountain terrain with these stock tracks. And I can tell you they performed beautifully, not perfectly. I did lose traction, got stuck, and I'll tell you here coming up how I get that machine out of that stuck configuration into being operable again. I was skiing backwards pretty good there, and then it got down into the dirt there and it caught. So we'll try it again. Disconcerting, to say the least, sliding backwards down a 15% grade in a 13,000-pound machine. So the way to combat this is, once you come to a complete stop, back up a little bit, get some momentum, and lift the implement off the ground. You can see the snowblower is totally off the ground. That's 1,100 pounds now transferring weight towards the front of the track. That redistribution of weight puts more pressure across the entire length of the track, and that really is all the difference. So just keep that in mind when this happens to you. It doesn't happen as much going down the hill because remember, you have your counterweight in the rear of the machine. Now I have to emphasize that if you are going downhill, you can't just let the stick go and lock the tracks and come to a complete halt. That is your brakes in these machines. There's no other brakes. So if you just let the stick go, it's going to lock the tracks and you're going to slide. That happened to me. I was on a steep 15-degree grade and I just started skiing down, and I pulled it back and reversed the tracks, which caused me to start to pitch sideways, and it was pretty scary. So my advice is when you come to a halt, and you'll get the hang of this over time, you just barely ease it forward and you'll slowly come to a stop. And that's a safe way to navigate going downhill. Now this is the Kubota SVL 97-2. It's the heaviest in the line. The Dash 3 and Dash 2 are about 12,000 pounds. You add a 1,100 pound implement plus the operator, so you're over 13,000 pounds. That is a lot of down pressure on those tracks, which makes it really stable in these snowy conditions. I'm not sure with the SVL 50 or 75 or 65 that you would get the same traction. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that if you've got one of the lighter machines, your results may vary. This was my first time using this, so the first order of business was to adjust the factory settings to suit gravel mountain roads.
I think I need to lower these shoes. See, they're not on the ground.
So just pause real quick. What you're seeing here is on the left, this is the blade. This is the blade that rides along the pavement, or in my case, above the gravel. And then the shoe on the right here, there's one on both sides, and you lower them down to give you some distance, some clearance, so that the blade isn't scooping up gravel.
There's a way to do that right here. See, it's all the way up. So I'm gonna have to pull these off and probably go up almost to there, maybe the top one. See the same here. You can see those little diamond shapes for that carriage bolt to fit into. 3/4. Damn spider was living inside this. I'm just gonna go all the way because I don't want any trouble. This auger needs to spin around. You can see they're like little skis. The front's up so it doesn't dig into the ground. These are sitting flush, and even in the all the way up position, you can see it's all the way. That's all the clearance I get. It's about 2 fingers.
So what I learned is you have to feather this, you have to rock it back. So what I did was I lift the implement completely off the ground, I rock it back, so I curl backwards, and then I lower it all the way down until it's as low as it'll go, and it'll stop. And somewhere right in there is about the right height for doing gravel. And I think this is probably about 2.5 to 3 fingers. Here's a different angle. You can see how there's all the way down, and then I curl forward, but not all the way flat, and just kind of leave it floating somewhere right around in there. Now you can put the machine in float as you're plowing, and it will catch on any kind of high spots and lift the blower up naturally so that you get more of a cut that is exactly in sync with the highs and lows of the road. I did not do that, but I probably will on the next one. But there is a lot of manual raising and lowering. As you transition from a steep downhill to a flat area, if you don't raise it up, you're gonna dig in at that transition point. So I always raise it up considerably. I don't care if the snow is just a little bit deep in that one little spot. The tracks from the machine will sort of compact it down in that one spot. And then immediately, once the whole machine is flat, I lower it back down again, and then you could then put it in float. And I think that's probably the best way to do this. The Kubota 97-2 has a maximum high flow output of 40.5 gallons per minute, but the implement itself is not rated that high. The optimal running capacity for this implement is 30 to 37 gallons per minute. So we need to go inside and set one of the auxiliary presets to a lower setting so that we're not overpowering the capacity and the design intent of this implement.
The way we set the gallons per minute on this machine, hit this little auxiliary button here, okay? And it's blinking, so it is set to high flow when it's blinking. If 40 gallons per minute is 100%, 32 gallons per minute will be 80%. So we want to set this somewhere between 80 and 85% to properly run this implement.
So now that we know we're not going to overpower the machine, we're set at 37 gallons per minute for the implement on auxiliary 1. We're going to crank those RPMs up all the way. So the entire time you're running the snowblower, you've got your RPMs up all the way. That gives you plenty of power to the implement as well as the tracks for turning, moving forward and backward, and raising and lowering the arms. The fourth and final lesson I'll share with you today that I learned the hard way in my debut as a snowblower is that the pace that you can go forward while you're doing this work really depends a lot on the snow. If you've got deep snow, it's going to take longer than if it's not a lot of snow, of course, but if it's light, fluffy snow, you can move much faster than if it's wet, heavy snow like it is in my case. You can see that it's really accumulating in front of the machine, almost just like a regular snow plow. So I have to slow down and allow the RPMs to come back up as it's trying to push that heavy snow up and out of that chute. So I ran a few calculations. It's a half mile roughly from our rental down to the main gate. And then I've got to make 2 passes, so I'm going down and back, but I'm overlapping 50%. The snowblower is 84 inches wide. 84 times 2 is 168, divided by 12 is 14 feet. I had to go down and back about 3 or 4 times to be able to get the full width because I was overlapping, because snow falls back into the path from the side. And you just have to continually go over it a few times to get a real nice cut. And I think plus the parking lot work and widening things out at the gate area, for example, this is about a 2-hour mission to go on every time it snows. That's not bad. I think that's a really efficient way to move an enormous amount of snow. And of course, all that depends on how deep the snow is, as I mentioned earlier. But I'm really happy with this machine. I would give it an A+ rating. And I hope that this really helps you guys if you're thinking about buying a machine and looking into maybe the difference between a snow pusher like I used to use on my backhoe. And that's a great way. That thing is 12 feet wide, enormous amount of snow, but it's really hard to push that off of a narrow mountain road with trees running alongside the road. And, it affects your steering and it's just difficult to push things off to the side. I think blowing the snow off of the road so you just go straight down and back without having to turn off is the way to go on narrow roads. And I think the tracks and the power of the 97-2 Kubota compact track loader and this 84-inch snowblower is a winning combination. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, please like. And if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next video.